Thanks, Mayor. Despite the fairly technical nature of the resolutions on this report, at its nub it's a very narrowly constrained and relatively straightforward set of decisions for the council to make. Now, the reason I say that is that this is the first report that's come to the council about accepting or rejecting recommendations from the IHP on Plan Change 14. We've had a number of memos and information sessions about this, I think 4 information sessions and 6 memos. So you know the background very, very well, and I'm not going to repeat it here. You know that the Minister's timetabling directions for making decisions on IHP recommendations requires the Council to make decisions on intensification in and around centres, and we sometimes call that Policy 3 decisions, by December of this year, and other decisions on other parts of the IHP recommendations by the end of next year. So there is going to be a report coming to you in December on the bulk of the IHP recommendations on intensification in and around centres. And it's taking a wee bit of time to get that ready because of some rewriting that's needed for some of the provisions and clarifications that staff have been seeking from the IHP. Now, whilst that work is going to take until December, there is a very small set of the IHP recommendations that are clear and certain and can be decided now. And that very small subset of the IHP recommendations is in 2 areas. First one is a section of the city centre zone. Sam, thanks for putting the map on the screen there. That's Appendix A to the council report. So the bulk of the resolutions in the report are about accepting IHP recommendations for the area that's shaded in there, but excluding the area with the red lines around it. Those excluded areas in the city centre zone are being excluded because of that further work I was describing a moment ago. So they'll be ready to come to the council in December. So the bulk of the resolutions is about accepting or rejecting IHP recommendations for the shaded area there, nowhere else. The second set of resolutions is simply, thanks again, Sam, those 6 heritage items and settings in Policy 3 areas, which the IHP has recommended the council delist heritage buildings. Now, those decisions can be made now, as I say, no further clarification or interrelationship with other parts of the council decisions. This is basically the same report that staff were planning on bringing to you for the council meeting on the 4th of September. You'll recall that there was an issue raised by a submitter on the eve of that report coming to the council, and that very helpfully raised some matters that required further clarification from the council, the type of clarification that this council has also been seeking of the IHP. So we got those clarifications from the IHP, and those clarifications have now been reflected in the provisions for the city centre zone that are recommended in this report. My last sort of summary of the context is that, as I've said a number of times, officers are not making any recommendations to you. The only information you can take into account in making your decision on the IHP recommendations are the IHP reports themselves and all of the information that was available to the IHP. So staff can't add to that by giving you advice, expressing opinions now, and your relevant considerations are constrained to what you see in the IHP materials, not what people were saying to you in the community. If you accept the IHP recommendations on the small subset of provisions that I've referred you to here, that decision is final. There's no appeals. Those provisions will be in the district plan, or the heritage listings will be taken out of the district plan. That will happen at the time that the council notifies your decision to accept the IHP recommendations. If, on the other hand, you choose to reject an IHP recommendation, the minister will decide on those provisions in your plan. Okay, that's the short summary.
Thank you, Brent. That's very clear. Has anyone got any questions? Councillor Johansson.
Yeah, I was interested in why we're being asked to make a decision on the heritage now instead of doing it as part of the heritage plan change.
Heritage provisions were included in both Plan Change 14 and in the heritage plan change. So they were two separate plan changes notified at the same time. The council's obliged to make a decision on Plan Change 14. They couldn't be kept out, heritage provisions couldn't be kept out of Plan Change 14 because they relate to constraints on the intensification that would otherwise be enabled through Plan Change 14. So they must be decided on in this process.
And so we couldn't have listed anything new in Plan Change 14. We can only delete heritage listings. Is that basically the nub of it?
Yeah, a new heritage listing would be introducing a additional constraint on what was already enabled by the district plan. And as a result of the High Court decision that I've referred to a number of times, the law on this, or the High Court's interpretation of the law, is that the council can't introduce new constraints on what was already enabled in the operative plan.
Right. And is the heritage section one of the sections that we could defer like we've done with the others in terms of the minister's acceptance of a revised timeframe?
Not within policy 3 areas. So the only heritage items in this report are the delistings of 6 buildings within policy 3 areas.
Right.
Excellent.
And if we wanted to retain these, are we able to do that?
Yes, your decision is to either accept or reject the IHP recommendation. And the only reason that the staff recommendation in this report is to accept the IHP recommendation to delist is that no councillors have raised any proposals over the last 2 months to challenge that IHP recommendation.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Peters.
Thank you. Just wanted to, I guess, get out in this meeting. The IHP are not here today presenting their recommendations to us. Is that standard practice?
Yes, that's absolutely standard practice. The IHP are a quasi-judicial body who are making neutral, independent recommendations to you. The statute says that they produce a written report and they present that written report to you. And the statute also says that if you want any clarification from them, you ask questions of clarification. And that's what we've been doing, again, for the last 2 months, asking questions of clarifications. It would be, in my opinion, wholly inappropriate for the panel to appear in front of you, because what we want are well-considered clarifications of any questions that are posed, not some sort of off-the-cuff Q&A in a council meeting.
Okay. I find that a little bit interesting in the fact that I know a friend of mine who's actually spoken to councillors from Wellington, and their IHP apparently appeared before the council and were open to questioning. So it's interesting that 2 IHPs can be so different.
Yeah, this is my advice to this council. Advice to the Wellington Council may have been different.
Thank you.
Mark. And Councillor Fields, please.
Kia ora. Just regarding item 5B3, 40 Norwich Quay in Littleton. So, I mean, I'm comfortable with the heritage. I mean, obviously the building's been demolished, right? So, you know, that's done. There's nothing we can do about that. But it's also like the site of the first, you know, is a site that's got historical importance, whether it's got a heritage, you know, designation or not, because it's the site of the oldest hotel in Canterbury. So I'm just wondering, like, by doing this, I mean, are we kind of, what does that mean for kind of acknowledging that site? Because I mean, we can't get away from the fact that the site is the site, even though the building's gone. Do you follow sort of what I mean? Does it still remain a heritage site?
Yeah, thank you. I understand what you mean. I think at the end of the day, from a pure planning point of view, in terms of what's incorporated in the district plan, it's not, as a result of the recommendations from the hearings panel, wouldn't be listed in the district plan. And so the setting that is around that is a product of the building. So the building isn't there, so the setting isn't there. That doesn't mean to say that we as a council don't have the ability to recognise it in other ways in terms of the public realm around that.
No, that's good. Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Kewen?
I'm just raising to the table that, yes, I completely agree with Councillor Fields re that site, but we've had raised at this council in the past the blue plaque system like they have in the UK. So for sites where a plaque goes in the footpath outside where the site is, and then it's forever known that that was the site of the first building or whatever. And a number of these, even though they might be changing today, would be sitters for blue plaque sites. And the first for me there would be Barbados Street, obviously, because that's such a historic site for the city. But we should be considering again going down the road of blue plaques because buildings leave us, but the site will always be the site, and so we should honour that.
Thank you. And Councillor Scanlon, please.
Just on the plaques, let's just make sure they're not in precious metal because they all seem to be getting nicked at the moment. Won't be any surprise. 5A, I'll just vote against because I have been from the very start vocal against the moving of the Citizens' War Memorial, and I certainly can't support it. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay.
5A, it's heritage and settings.
Okay. You've got another question, Councillor?
My understanding is we have time in terms of policy 3, so we could actually make the heritage decision in December.
Yes.
So we don't need to rush it today. I appreciate what you've said around people raising concerns, but I don't think when we got briefed on this, we got the specifics until quite recently. So, yeah, I mean, I feel concerned doing the heritage ones today.
We have been briefed up the tree and down.
Yeah.
Well, when did we get the list of the heritage ones that were, like in those presentations that we had from staff, did we were we given the specific heritage buildings that were proposed to be delisted? Because I don't recall seeing them.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been very clear on what's happening. Councillor Harrison-Hunt, then I'm going to put it.
If it was by way of council, would you be able to do the heritage items in this one and December if there are any additionals?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So, Councillor Johansson said he wanted to review part 5 of this.
Yes.
Am I right, Yanni, in thinking you want to table it until December?
There's no reason we have to make the decision on the heritage today if people have got concerns. It's a policy 3 area that we've been given extension till December, as I understand it. Yeah. So
If that was the case, then I wouldn't be comfortable with that. Reason being is 65 Riccarton Road's been waiting for a long time to get that provision going. So if staff are able to, if the council wants to push and table that item into December, I'd rather keep 65 Riccarton Road on today's agenda.
No, we're going to put the motion, because I've moved it and Sam seconded it, we're going to put the motion as everything you see on the screen, and I understand Councillor Scandrett is about 5A, is that right? It wants to be against that. So I'm going to put this motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? And I'll record that. Thank you. And 5A. Yeah. Okay, so that is passed. Thank you very much. Thank you. Righty-o. We'll move on to number 5. And I dare say Councillor